So what this video is it is a data mine of Enlisted. So what I've done is I've used my experience from being able to see what's in the files from War Thunder, and Enlisted and War Thunder is very similar whenever it comes out to file structure and being able to look in and see what's in the files. So this video we're going to be covering tanks that are currently not in Enlisted right now. Now, I know some of these things have been in previous alpha tests, with it being Berlin, and some of these things will be coming to game pretty soon, as well as there's some odd ones, and whenever we get to those odd ones, I'll talk about it. And I think that they're not actually going to be in the game, but they're in the game for a different reason. So, we're going to start out with the United States. So first tank that's in the files right now is the M3 Halftrack T48. It's essentially the Su-57 from War Thunder for the Russian tree. It's got a 57mm and it's a half-track. It'll be pretty interesting. I'm not really sure how tank destroyer type tanks will be in the game, since the maps, in my opinion, are pretty small as it is currently. They're pretty small. I don't see a point in tank destroyers as of now. So the next one's the M3 Lee. M3 Lee is pretty cool. It'd be the first tank with multi-turrets, so be interesting to see how that one works, with being able to fire the 37 and being able to fire the 76mm. So the next one's the M3A1. I assume this one is going to be premium, because currently right now in Normandy the M5A1 is just better than it. So maybe it might come to a premium squad one day. The next one's the M4A1 76W. So it's the first Sherman with a 76. It's going to be pretty decent. I think that it might be one of the earlier tanks that you get unlocked in the campaigns, and hopefully we see more stuff being added to the campaigns. And I think this is a good one to add. The next one is the M4A3 E8, which is commonly called the Easy 8. It's a 76mm with extra armor from the previous one I just mentioned, and it's a pretty iconic tank. It's been in some movies, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. So now we're getting on to more of light tanks and more of tank destroyer type vehicles. So the M8 Greyhound. The M8 Greyhound will be decent. I mean, it'll have the same 37 as the M5 does currently in game. It might be able to move around the map fast, like the Puma does right now. And I think the Puma is really good at just running over people. So maybe that's what the job of the M8 Greyhound is just to run over people. The next vehicle is the M10 Wolverine. The M10 has very low turret traverse. I don't see this being a useful tank in Enlisted, and hopefully there's bigger maps to be able to use these tank destroyers on, because as of right now I don't see really a use in them. You want the most armor you can get. So yeah, it's lightly armored, turret traverse is terrible, and maybe the 50 cal will save it, who knows. But the next tank is the M18 Hellcat. Very iconic tank. A lot of people love this tank, but as I've said again, it's a tank destroyer. It is very fast. Maybe it can just run over people like the Puma and the M8 Greyhound. But once again, it's very lightly armored. It's open topped. So yeah, we'll have to see how those work. But like I've said, the maps are very small for these types of tanks and what their duties would be. The next one is the M24 Chaffee. The M24 Chaffee is a pretty interesting one. It's got the 75 that's commonly seen on Shermans. As well, it should have a 50 cal to be able to down infantry, and it might be decent. We'll have to see. It's very low profile, so it might be good on some maps and bad on others, but we'll have to see. So that is the end for the United States. As of right now, the US currently is only in one campaign, which is going to be Normandy, that we know of so far. So hopefully all these tanks come to Normandy campaign. We'll have to see. The next nation we're going to be talking about now is Russia. So, like I've said at the beginning of this video, there's a couple of stuff that was in the files that I don't think is going to be used as a player-wise, but is in the background of some maps. But who knows, we might be able to see it one day. So, the BM-13N, which is the Katyusha, it's a rocket vehicle. I don't see much of a use in it. I mean, you have to be kind of far away to be able to kill anything with it. But on that one map on the Moscow campaign, there is a Katyusha in the background, so that might be where it's at. They might be just using it for an asset to be able to, have it on the map. So the next is 2 gas trucks. We're going to combine these two. So the Gaz AA 4mm, which is the Maxim machine gun, has, I believe, 3 Maxims on the back of it. This one, I'm not really sure where it's at, but I think it would be decent at mauling down infantry. And we'll have to see. It might be just like the Katyusha and be an asset that's in the background. But I think SPA vehicles have some sort of, duty in Enlisted to be able to take down planes. And hopefully we see more SPA vehicles being added to flesh out each nation's ability to be able to kill planes. So the next gas truck is the 72K, which is a 20mm gas. It's very similar to the first one. Who knows? It's probably just acid that's in the background as of now, but we might see it in the game. So back on to actual tanks. The IS-1. The IS-1 has an 85mm. It will be pretty decent. I'm pretty sure this will be in the Berlin campaign. So let's talk about this right quick. So right now, Russia will be in the Berlin campaign and is in the Battle of Moscow campaign. So if you see a very high vehicle like the IS-1, I assume this one will be in Berlin. It most likely will not be in the Battle of Moscow. So we have a bunch of these vehicles, and we might see a couple that come to Battle of Moscow, but I think Battle of Moscow right now is pretty much fleshed out when it comes to tanks. So the IS-1, 85mm, it's pretty decent. It has a bunch of armor. We'll have to see how it performs. It should be able to pretty much just tank any anti-infantry tank equipment, and yeah, we'll have to see. So the next one is the IS-2. So the IS-2 has already been seen in the Battle of Berlin, so most likely where it's going to come to. It has a 122mm, very long reload. Should have decently capabilities against other tanks. It should be able to just go through pretty much all the Panther's frontal plate, which will be really nice for that tank. The next tank is the ISU 152. So the ISU 152 will be very good against tanks. It will be very good against infantry and very good at pretty much lobbing a bomb at a certain point where you just want to kill a bunch of people. Essentially, you are a bomb on the ground. You shoot your cannon with HE loaded, you will kill maybe like 20 or 30 people if they're all congested into like one building. As well as the main thing with bombing right now is that if the enemy is inside a building, they're not affected by bombs right now, at least in my opinion, how I feel when I play the Ju-87. But the ISU 152, on the other hand, can lob an HE round right into a window and clear out a whole point. So we'll have to see how that goes. Once again, tank destroyers, in my opinion, don't really have a place. We'll have to see when Berlin comes, because Berlin will be a bunch of new maps. We've got to see snippets of it with alpha test and open test. I believe there's like one open test on Berlin at one point. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that. So the next one is the KV-1L11. The KV-1L11 is a very armored beast. Pretty much will be able to tank pretty much anything that comes at it. But it is very heavy. I don't really see it being like wind-inducing tank, because it is slow. It will be able to just go to one place and be able to hold it, and I think infantry will be able to run this one a new one once it comes to game. But we have to see. Right now, there's not really a heavy tank in the game except for the Jumbo, and the Jumbo is only heavy from the front. The KV-1, on the other hand, is pretty much heavy from every single aspect you can look at it. So we have to see how one of those goes. So the next one is a fan favorite of everyone, and right now in War Thunder, it is very good. It's the KV-2, 1939. The KV-2 1939 has a 152mm. It's a derp cannon. Very good at probably killing infantry. probably very good at killing tanks. We'll have to see how large caliber HE works in Enlisted, because in War Thunder right now there's pressure damage, but in Enlisted we're not sure how they will treat high caliber HE. Maybe they will use pressure damage, maybe they'll use a hull break system again, but we'll have to see when it comes to tank combat. So the next one's the SU-85M. SU-85M is a weird one. Like I've said, tank destroyers in this game, I don't see a place for them. It's probably going to come to the Battle of Berlin, but I don't see a place of tank destroyers right now, because the line of sights are not really that, you have to camp with this tank, but camping with this tank is not really viable in most situations. So the next one is SU-100. The SU-100 is 100mm. It's the same gun that's on the T-54s, interesting enough, but will be a very good gun to be able to take out the Germans on Berlin, because it's a wonderful gun. I love the gun in War Thunder, but once again, it's a tank destroyer. We'll have to see how those pan out. The next one is probably going to be coming to the Battle of Moscow, and that is the T-26 1940. The T-26 is a really dinky little tank. I love it. It looks really cool, and hopefully everyone has a wonderful time when it comes to Battle of Moscow. It's because I think it's a really cool tank. So now we're getting on to the T-34 lines. So the T-34-85 most likely coming to Battle of Berlin. It's a really good medium tank, has very low depression when it comes to gun depression, and it's okay. It's the most okay tank you can ever think of if you've played War Thunder. It's just okay in everything. The next one is the T-34 1941. The 1941 is really good in War Thunder. So in War Thunder at least, the T-34 lineups that come in like 3-3 are really good. Really solid lineups. But in Enlisted, we'll have to see how they do against infantry, which is another factor that they have. But they're really good against tanks. They're very nimble. They move around really good. They have very good frontal armor when it comes to balancing. And we'll have to see. So a very similar tank is going to be the 1942. It's very similar to the T-34. I believe it has a slightly better gun, if I remember correctly, and a little bit more armor and some weird things on the back of the tank. And finally, one of my favorite tanks that I've seen in the files is the ZIS-30. So the ZIS-30 has the most insane recoil you've ever seen out of a tank when it fires. The ZIS-30 is also open to just infantry coming to the back of it and killing the tankers. And I think that would be very interesting to just see how that tank works in Enlisted. It'll be a meme. I don't think it's really good. And I think my closing remarks of looking at this tank list and looking at this data mine is I kind of want to see how open top tanks work. Because right now, the only open top tank is the M8 Scott on Normandy campaign. The M8 Scott, I think I've heard people say it's bugged right now, where you can't shoot the tankers from the top of the open top. But we'll have to see, how effective those tanks are, because infantry will be very deadly to open top tanks. Because what I've noticed a lot while playing Enlisted is that if I can't kill a tank and I don't want him to kill me, I just jump on top of him and just sit there. And he can't see me, and hopefully if he's on a cap and he's trying to get somebody off the cap, he will get out of his tank and I'm able to kill him, because he doesn't know where I'm at, but I'm in reality on top of his tank. So other than that, the next video on the Datamine series will be the aircraft that's in Enlisted. There's quite a few. There's not really much on the Tunisia campaign. There is one data mine for the UK for tanks, and that's MG for pretty much their very low tier tanks that would come to Tunisia. But other than that, hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later.